Our first speaker knows a thing or two about complex systems. Jayamohan is a seasoned entrepreneur and expert in disruptive innovation, design thinking, and strategic management. As an executive director of the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Harrisburg University and a professor at George Mason University School of Business, Jay leads efforts to bring together innovative thinkers and entrepreneurs to collaborate on ideas and solve problems. He co-founded and led multiple successful startups, including Rollstream and Centeris, raising over $20 million in venture capital, expanded operations from the US to UK and Asia, won awards including Top 100, Supply and Demand Chain Vendor, Fast 50, et cetera, and successfully sold the companies. Jay has also been recognized for his innovative programs and featured in various print and visual media. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Executive Director of the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Harrisburg University, and most importantly, Investment Committee member of the White Rose Impact Fund, Jayamohan.
And I was also wondering, why did Martin ask me to speak? Because I'm not the current founder. And then the flip side of that is, I'm not a great speaker. I'm more of like a founder, doer, hacker, however you define that. But then the flip side of it, I was like, then why did I agree to speak? I think I have the same disease that most of the founders in the room have. I call it irrational confidence, right? There is no rationality for why we are confident about our ideas, but we all think this is something really cool. Whatever we are doing is the coolest thing since sliced bread, and everybody should hear about it, everybody should fund it, everybody should buy it. But seriously, I think we are all here because we are part of a startup ecosystem. So I thought I'll share two things. One, my experience with one of the best startup ecosystems that I have been seen or been part of. And two, how can we build our own ecosystem? So regarding the best ecosystem, it's, at least for me, hands down, it's the one in San Francisco, the Silicon Valley one. I'll give you a quick example of, Martin gave me 10 minutes, so if I run over, I'll, just wave and I'll stop. So my first week, so we started a company called Rollstream. We were lucky enough to meet a venture capitalist from the Valley who was in Washington, D.C. He saw our pitch, he invited us over. So we landed in Silicon Valley, and I don't know if any of you here have been there on Sand Hill Road, where all the big venture capitalists are there. So our first week, one of our first meetings, it was the venture capital company called Axel Partners. We walk in, we're just getting ready to meet with the partner. He comes out, he shakes our hand, me and my co-founder, Nick, and then he says, hey, we want to introduce you to one of our portfolio company founders. And he calls a guy who's walking away. Turns out, he comes back, he introduces himself, Mark Zuckerberg. I'm the founder of Facebook. So we are not impressed by him, right? So he has a hoodie, he doesn't look at our eyes, he has a limp handshake. Nick and I say, this is not going anywhere. That evening, so that meeting ends. That evening we are at a bar there, because next day we have another meeting. At the bar, Nick and I are sitting, there's a guy sitting next to us. At the point we are all drunk, the guy sitting next to me says, what are you guys here for? We said, we are founders, we are pitching. He says, oh really, I'm also a founder. And as we get more and more drunk, he says, I'm going to be selling my company, I can't tell you too much about it. My name is Steven Chan. And he said, if I sell the company, I might be able to fund you guys. And we're like, oh, cool. And then we all leave. I never take his card or anything. 3 weeks later, he's the founder of YouTube. Google buys them for $1 billion. This is all happening in like the same week. And then the third day, we are at Benchmark. We meet with Bill Gurley, who has now his own documentary and is, so this is, for me, 1 week there, we meet so many of these people. So what we found was that you walk into any Starbucks or any of the bars there, I think you will find your customer, you will find an investor, you will probably find your potential acquirer, all of them in that space. And then on top of that, an amazing weather, which I think we can't compete with. So that's for me an ideal. People always say, let's look at Silicon Valley and build one of those ecosystems. That took 75 years. I don't think we can do that. But we can take a lot of those great pieces from that and build our own system. Martin has built one of the most important pieces of the puzzle, right? Without the funding, without venture funding, you cannot have any of the other pieces. And that was a really missing piece. So having an institutional investor, along with Ben Franklin, is a really important piece of the puzzle as far as I look at this area as a startup ecosystem. When you bring together those two pieces, I think you start attracting some really cool founders from around the area. And I'm really happy that the last couple of years, the geographical barriers have started breaking down. When I came here, I live in DC, and so when I came here, one of the things that struck me was people would say, oh, we are all about New York, or we are all about West Shore, East Shore. And I think at least this room, majority of the people are hopefully breaking down those barriers, because Martin here doing an institutional investment fund here in New York that actually invests in Harrisburg or even in Baltimore, I think he should be looking. Wherever there are great deals, because that's how you attract great founders to the region also, right? Then the range of people, organizations, resources, a network of trust is really critical, right? So I sit on Martin's investment committee not because of any particular vested interest, but because I want to see the success of this fund. And on the other side, I think what we have unique about this area than a Silicon Valley is the diversity of founders, right? And the diversity of the companies. We have Philip, pretzel company. We have Nick Gilson, snowboard. We have Christina and Matt, children's fitness app. We have Dave Siegel, a top invention on Time Magazine. So that, I was talking to a friend of mine with NEA, which is a big fund there. And if you look at their last few years or last 1 year of portfolio, it all says one thing: artificial intelligence. So I think we are creating a more diverse founders, more interesting founders, more interesting problems we are solving. And maybe everybody doesn't realize that right now, but like Steve Jobs said, you can only connect the dots by looking back. So by showing up to these events, by talking with people, by failing and pivoting forward, you are creating the dots that you have to trust will somehow connect to your future. So thank you, and here is to irrational confidence, to trust, and to the endless possibilities of a startup world. Cheers.